Hey guys, it is Tim with Tabletop Terrors, and this is Daily Damage. I run the Tabletop Terrors YouTube channel with my brother James, but I love doing these daily, fairly daily live streams from Facebook. They're a blast, and so if you're joining us live now, awesome, and if not, you're watching this on YouTube. I'm going to be driving a lot this Daily Damage, so I'm going to do my best to check the chat safely, but might not check it too often. I have to go to a medical supply warehouse. I have a hanging globulus in my pharynxis, and it leads to a sanguished farcinating in my upper lufanots. And so that's all medical terms, you guys. It's pretty, no, really, I'm going to a medical supply depot. I have to pick up some stuff, and it's kind of far away, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and stream, and we're going to talk today about time travel, because in the last Daily Damage we did, it was, about mazes, and someone said, hey, can you talk about time travel? And I will do that. I'm going to start with what I call the rundown. The rundown is just a quick, rundown of what you should probably check out if you're into our stuff and you want to see some other things we have going on. So for this rundown, we interviewed the Dungeon Master, Sean, who I interviewed in a written piece for tabletopterrors.com. We did a video interview of him. He runs a game where it's for people who, I think the lowest age person is his mom at around 55, and the people who are oldest are in their 70s. And he runs a D&D game for them. It was a pleasure talking to him. It was so fun to just hear him emote and talk about the whole group. And so even if you've read the article, this is definitely a companion piece. It's not just us asking him the exact same questions. It sort of extrapolates and adds on to those sorts of things. I'm really bummed I forgot to bring my energy drink. I bought an energy drink and absolutely forgot to bring it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the brightness up on my phone. Let's see here. Oh, it's not going to let me. It's I think it's locking me out of my... Yep, it is. So, that's fine. We're going to talk about time travel today. I cannot check the chat, unfortunately, because I'm driving on the interstate. But please comment. There will be I'm going to get probably 7 miles, and then I get off of the interstate, and it's going to be stop and go, traffic lights, stuff like that. I might even pull over and just answer some questions directly. But I really want to be safe. A lot of people comment like, hey, be safe. Don't drive while you do this. And, they freak out when I do this. When I look like this, when I start reading this, it freaks them out. So, let's talk about time travel. Time travel in your RPGs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just stay away from it. That's my first cursory warning. Stay away from time travel. But we're not going to do that, are we? We're writers. We're creative people. We have a good idea. We're going to do it, even if it's not going to be easy. So, with that cursory, obligatory, soothsaying warning out of the way, if you are going to do it, here's the first thing that you need to remember. You are not writing a piece of fiction by yourself. Time travel, once you decide on the rules that you're going to use, can be really, really fun and a really good tool in written fiction, because you control every beat. You control every micron of what happens when, where, in every scene. Was just in the last game that I played in, we totally surprised the game master. We totally surprised the dungeon master. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but when we were done, in the post-game hangout, the dungeon master was like, yeah, I was expecting you to do X, and you totally did Y. This is why you can't plan every detail of time travel. And it's important that you remember that if your time travel plotline has the phrase, and then when this happens, you are going to be in quite a pickle, because they might actually diverge from your mental timeline, and then what you have planned can never exist, okay? So it's important, if you're going to mess with time travel, to do it in a way that it's not predependent on something that you can't place inside the story. So I'll give you an example. Don't say, when the archbishop is murdered on the steps of the church, then the time bandits will appear. Okay? What you can say is, when the archbishop is murdered, wherever that happens, no matter how, no matter when, then the time bandits appear. Now, unless you're going to have this stuff take place entirely off scene, in which case, you know, it's not really going to matter that much to the players, and they won't catch on that it's time travel. But, so, that's my first thing that I want to warn you of. You're not writing a piece of fiction, it's a collaborative story. So already, you know what? I'm actually coming up to this right now. You're already, it's kind of time travel. You're making a fractal story with the people at the table. Now, that's kind of loosey-goosey, and I might get a bunch of negative comments for that, but the point is, in your mind, you've got this timeline set out, but guess what? The players are going to diverge from that in every different way. I guess that's not really time travel. Time travel is what I'm doing right now. I'm moving slowly through time at the rate at which time allows me. All right, enough dummery. So, what are some tips to actually use time travel after that? After that, the first note being, don't do it. The second note being, I know you're going to do it anyway, so make sure you don't write it like a novel to where all these perfect dominoes have to fall. Decide what kind of time travel you want to do. And here's what I think when I say this. I don't mean decide the 5 laws and which your time travel is governed. It's like, the more specific and detailed your time travel gets, the harder it's going to be to actually use. I would almost warn you to decide on a flavor of time travel. Decide on the flavor of time travel you're going to use, and then get ready. Get this hand ready, or your other hand, because you're going to wave it a lot. You're going to wave it a lot, because using time travel is not about knowing science, it's not about knowing physics, any more than using magic is about knowing those things. Using time travel is about following your own rules and developing a chain of logic that doesn't cheat on itself or break itself, okay? Now, there's Whovian time travel, Doctor Who time travel. This is probably the easiest time travel to use in a game, but this is also probably the easiest time travel to misuse in a game. So, Whovian time travel seems to be extremely finicky and dependent on a lot of odd, random things that serve the plot. Now, I love Doctor Who, but we gotta call it what it is. The time travel, what it's capable of, and how it works is hand-waved, largely, to what fits the plot and the concepts. Now, they do a really good job of making sure to poke any parts that start to get kind of inflated and keep you at least in a believable state in most cases. But in one episode, yeah, we can do this, we can go here. In the next episode, that same thing could save the day, but it's not possible, just because of the way the time stream works and things like that. So, a very loose Doctor Who style time travel, really easy to use in game, but can become, it can feel unfair to the players, I think, if you use it wrong. Because then all of a sudden they're like, well, what are the rules? If anything can happen, what do our actions matter? Okay? And then there are a bunch of other styles here, and which we'll go into detail, like some actual applicable, like, use this exact thing in a game. I'm going to go through some of that, but I kind of want to talk about, like I said, time travel styles. And to me, keep it general and pick a couple of really big rules. Because the other thing that you don't want time travel to become is your Deus Ex Machina. You don't want time travel to be the solution to everything. If you use it well, if you set it up right, and if it's something that has an important impact on the story, but not a broad or large one, not even large, but prolific. If it doesn't have a constant impact on the story where it's like, oh, what's the solution? Is it time travel? It works. So here are 2 examples of that in fiction. Spoiler alert, for Harry Potter. Actually, I won't even tell you which Harry Potter, so that it'll be like, whoa. In one of the Harry Potter books, there is a device that allows for time travel, and they use it to great effect. J.K. Rowling does a really good job with setting this device up, allowing it to work, setting up some general rules for it, and then using it in a way that is meaningful. That's a good way to do it. I'm trying to think. There was another one that I had right on the tip of my tongue. It was Harry Potter. Oh, Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest, probably for the singleness of effect, towards the middle. Again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Galaxy Quest, we're about to ruin a really cool part. So 3, 2, 1. So at the end, there's essentially this device, and they're not exactly sure what it does, and it turns out to be a device that turns back time 10 seconds. That's brilliant, because the way that they let you know that is by having the heroes lose. You're just watching this scene unfold where the bad guy wins and kills everyone, and you're like, what's happening? What? And then you find out what this device does, and it sets time back 10 seconds, and everyone gets a second chance. I didn't feel gypped. I didn't feel like that was a cheat. The problem is, if you try to use that in a D&D game, well, guess what I'm going to use? Every time something bad happens. Whoa. Hold on. Did you overcook that bread? Hold on. Beep. Hey, take your bread out of the oven. So you want to make sure to make the time travel meaningful, but also you don't want it to be rampant throughout the whole campaign to where it's like it starts interweaving and then this affects that, affects the other things. I'm getting ready to exit here. I'm about, say, 5 minutes away. So I know I love talking in the chat. So I know people are probably chatting their butt off. I might even do a second Daily Damage later tonight to just answer all the questions, or like a live stream or something, just to make sure you guys know that I'm going to read all these comments. So let's talk about Back to the Future. I think this is another good one. And now let's go from the style of time travel you want to use and jump into, I think it's important to choose a major vehicle. I don't mean literal, like a DeLorean, though you can. I think you need to choose the vehicle through which your time travel works, okay? How do they time travel? Now, again, I'm not asking you for, Newtonian physics here. I just think that it's important that you have a basic idea of this device allows time travel, and it has to be used during a full moon. That's enough to kind of start. You just need to decide how this is going to happen. Because again, time travel is a kind of magic. And the key to make a good magic system is that it has to have rules, laws, and be believable enough. That same thing applies. So when you're talking about time travel, it's really key that there's at least, even if it's vague, or even if it's a mystery, as the players learn more about this, it becomes more clear how it happens. Because you want to know what's more frustrating than time travel everywhere? Well, time travel everywhere, and I don't know how it's happening. Unless that's purposefully part of your plot, it can be really confusing if the one way I time travel to save, the Archbishop we were talking about before, Archbishop, I'm having an infarction. If the first time I do it, it's like, I use this staff. But then the second time, I'm like, I use this ring, which has the same powers as this staff. It starts to be like, well, hold on. You have to have something, like some rule, like, well, no, there's unobtainium in both of these, which is how we time travel. Then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I need unobtainium to time travel and write a bad movie called Avatar. So let's start talking about some cool ways to implement time travel into your game. Like, how do you actually do it? And I'm getting ready to exit the interstate so I can actually check the chat here. All right. Why use time travel? What is it going to accomplish? Meaning, what's the cool way it's going to be executed? Or like, how do we take this concept and then make it into a game? Because all I've talked about right now is time travel, but we want to talk about time travel as it pertains to RPGs. So, what's my cool hook, or what's my plot? What's my thing? So that, I have to find out what's my Biff Tannen, bringing an almanac, Back to the Future. And so here, let me paint this picture for you. Oh wait, I have to put the phone down and check the paper directions I printed to see which way to go. Hang on. I'm still here. Don't worry. Fret not, Internet. I'll return shortly. All right. Take a right. Nope, a left. All right, I'm taking a left. All right. In the land of Dragongrin, a carriage is winding along a steep and narrow roadway that's hugging a cliff. This carriage holds a prominent young man of 13. Some say he's the best fighter that's ever been in Dragongrin, even though he's 13. He has a sixth sense, and the carriage continues to screech and wind along this roadway, and it goes off the cliff. And this is where, in the Dragongrin history books, one of the most famous fighters in the realm who dies before their time gets smashed on these rocks. But we go back, and as the carriage gets pushed off the ravine, you see the boy hug the sides as the cliff disappears behind him, and as the ground in front of him begins to come closer and closer. And just before he hits the ground, there's a green light, and someone appears within the carriage before it hits, grabs the boy by the collar and says, "You're coming with me." The green light disappears with the boy and the figure, and as the carriage shatters across the rocks, a body was never found. So, this is where the campaign starts. There's a group of people in Dragongrin that have found a way to time travel. And what they're doing is, before people meet their end, before promising people meet their demise, whether it's through accidents or murder or everything, these time travelers go to moments before they die, bring them back to a future where they're trying to fight the dismembered lord, and they're assembling a team of incredible people to do so. That is how you incorporate time travel. That's cool to me. It's not just like, okay, no, there's this. It's like, no, make it matter. Make it like a cool thing. But that's some of the downsides of this time travel is you only can time travel when it's an emotionally charged sort of like the human spirit. You know, whether it's sensing joy or pain. You can only time travel to moments before these big events. So either like a wedding or like these moments in the time stream that have these glowing embers, whether it's tragedy or happiness or whatever. So you have to find people who are either really happy and pull them back or pull them, forward to the future, or you find people who are really sad or about to die or something like that. So that's one interesting way, I think, to do it. I am going to pull over and I'm going to check the chat. Let me see here. As soon as I can find, this is a long stretch of road. I'm off the interstate, but I haven't hit the spot where there's a bunch of stoplights. So, but that's one way to do it. Another way is, all right, so, hang on, I found a spot. I'm going to pull over. But, so my point is, before I tell you another way, my point is, make the time travel have a cool meaning. Something as cool as time travel shouldn't just be there like a telephone booth. Well, that's probably a terrible example to use since a call box is how Doctor Who uses time travel. But my point is, it shouldn't just be there as your quick Deus Ex Machina. All right, I'm going to pull into this little alcove here for a minute. And I'm going to check the chat. Chat it up. Chatteronius Rex. All right. Whoa, so many comments. Wowza. What's going on, everybody? Chris Wilhelm is here. Sean DeGuizo is here. Rob Collette is here. Nathan Thurston says super medical. Oh man, I almost want to skip all this because it'll just take me so long to go through. I'm gonna do it. Brian Catalano. There should always be time travel in D&D. I agree. Ben Fisher says, sup fellas. Sup. John Getz is here. Stephen Back is here. Josh Glisson. Ben Fisher, I loved the time puzzle for Orin a while back. Yes, in one of the Winds of Sorceline games, there's a puzzle, essentially, that has to do with, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it involves time travel to a degree to solve the puzzle, and that was brilliant on Barker's part. Josh Glisson, hello from work. Training day, so goofing off. Well, perfect. I am going to help you meet your goof off quota. Blah, blah, blah. Stephen Back says, hey. Ben Fisher, recovering from surgery. I hope you're doing well, man. I hope you're doing really well. Speedy return. Stephen Back says, sitting in the waiting room of the doctor's office to pick up the wife's meds, going on an hour. Can I travel back in time and get this hour back? Oh, man, I wish you could. Jonathan Lutzer, hey, Tim. Ben Fisher. Stephen, that's just rude, having to wait that long. Rob Coletta, Doctor Who is perfect for time travel narrative put into games. An example, bootstrap theory. A big fan of Beethoven who has studied every note of his work. Okay, I know bootstrap theory very well. And so it says, okay, a big fan of Beethoven who has studied every note of his work goes back in time to meet him, and there's no sign of him. So you panic. Where is he? I better start writing his work. I have a responsibility. Suddenly, you've become Beethoven. This is actually a really cool way. If you want to incorporate this into your game, you actually make it so that the adventuring party is, and the same exact concept. They go back in time before Lightfall to find a famous group of people who become these famous adventurers, and then it turns out that they, in fact, become the adventurers. So that's one good plot hook. So Rob, very good call on bootstrap theory. I made some notes, actually, that I should probably stick to. Oh, when I was talking before about how don't try to use and write this as a novel, don't use a timeline that's like specific. Back to the Future is something, the trilogy, movies 1, 2, and 3, is something called a chiasmus. And this is essentially what a palindrome is for words. This is for like media, like poetry, books, and film. And so it's a chiasmus. So it kind of goes from one point to a middle and then reverses in its plot line and scenes and stuff like that. So that's brilliant. That's really, really, really hard to pull off. But you could layer a thin kind of like upper level, like subcutaneous version of that on your game, but don't expect the players to play that scene by scene by scene in reverse, because if they mess up your chiasmus because they don't want to go see the princess again, now you put on your conductor hat and you hold a gun to their heads and you say, you are going to play my story, and they won't probably like it. Sean Murphy says, time travel, with an exclamation point. Josh Glisson, never gotten to Doctor Who, too goofy. Totally. And if that's not your thing, I'd say stay away from it. Jacob Norman has joined us. What's up, brother? Stephen Back. He says, don't tell my players, but I'm using a bit of time travel and totally messing up continuity on purpose, because magic. And it's fun. And it also grates on my nerves. And it's so mentally draining to ignore the issue. So yeah, it's interesting to cause paradoxes on purpose. That is actually a very clever way to do it, and I think the players are eventually going to start picking up on it. Now, one of the things you got to remember is we're all busy, and in a lot of the games I play in, I need that recap. I have my own notes, and I try to watch the session we played in prior, the week of the game, but if you're trying to make these subtle nuances like the name of someone you saw 3 sessions ago changed, it's like, and I'm not talking about you, Steven, I'm saying to game masters everywhere, don't expect players to pick up on that. You gotta, some players might, most players that I play with won't, and you gotta spoon feed them a little bit. You gotta say, make them roll a check, or just tell them, hey, that's weird. It used to say Archibald, and now it says, Broomhilda, or something like that. You have to give them some sort of lead into it. Don't just change all these little details and expect them to notice, because you're going to be really sad. And you're going to be like, didn't you guys notice all the cool stuff I put in there? And then I'll be like, dude, I was trying to find childcare for my kid, and my wife had to work, and I didn't have time to watch the session again, so no, I didn't. So again, Steven, that's not directed to you. I'm saying even myself, it's like, even episodes of great television shows start with recaps, and even new seasons like start with kind of like resetting the table of like, hey, remember why you care? Remember what this is about? And that kind of thing. Ben Fisher says, Chrono Trigger. Yes. Yes, Chrono Trigger. Go play Chrono Trigger. That has some really, really cool time travel themes in it. And the music and the graphics are absolutely infallible. So, Jacob Norman says, that's like the Dagger of Time in Prince of Persia. Or what's her name's ability in Overwatch. Yes. So, using that, I think you're talking about the thing that goes back just in a certain amount of time. It's a really cool thing to use, but make it so that they can't use it super often. Or, like I said, they're like, ah, man. Hey, I've been trying really hard to throw this rock into that bowl, and I just keep using the time travel thing. Rob Coletta says, Doctor Who teaches us to love our shared humanity. It's a great show with over 50 years of content. It's dangerous and unwise to dismiss that amount of content. Also, the quality of time travel narrative is entirely based on the writer of that episode. That's true, too. Doctor Who, I agree with all that, by the way. And I've shared a Doctor Who quote that I love a few times that I won't butcher right now, but you know, it basically talks about how we didn't give him a sword, we gave him a screwdriver to fix things. And, you know, we didn't give him super strength, we gave him 2 hearts. And it's like, the Doctor is the ultimate non-killer. He's the answer to villains without raising a weapon. It's very interesting. But Dan Dingman joined. What's up, Dan? Josh Glisson, need a temporal prime directive. That's actually a really clever way to do it. So having, like, calling what you are going to use the temporal prime directive, where it's like, okay, guys, but that's where, okay, to have a temporal prime directive, you need to have baseline established rules. You need to have those rules given to the players through a scroll or whatever framing device you want to use, but that's why it's important to set your rules. So Melvin Victorio is here. Josh Glisson. Star Wars Holiday Special is more content. Doesn't make it good content. It's kind of a reach. I don't know if that matches his Doctor Who comment, but there's a difference between a cash grab and an entire tapestry of British sci-fi culture. That's probably better worded. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to jump through here. Okay, so I will catch up more on the chat in its entirety later. However, I want to give you guys some ideas that I wrote down specifically that you can use in your game. So aside from the people who are jumping back in time and grabbing potential heroes to fight the dismembered Lord, there's another idea that is kind of that the most recent Star Trek films used, which is time travel takes you out of your own continuity. So every time you travel, yes, you might change the time stream, but it's a endless multiverse. So there's also that to where it's like, okay, which becomes more of like a Sliders kind of TV show where you can jump from alternity to alternity where all these different things happen. Now, there's not as much weight, I don't think, on what the players are doing, and they might have the sort of like, we can do whatever we want here because we can just leave. A danger becomes, you know, maybe, I don't know. I probably wouldn't use that one unless it was a very specific storyline, because I don't want my players to feel like they can just go mess up somebody else's backyard and then come home all the time. So perhaps if there's too many ripples in the time stream, things start to bleed over. So, you know, oh, okay, well, yeah, we just blew this place up and we did this and we killed this guy. And it's like, if there are enough rips in the alternity, they start to bleed over, not literally, but in theory, it's like, oh, wow, this building also burned down here in a freak accident because it's starting to bleed over. It's like the lanes with which these time streams exist are breaking. And so, you know, maybe do something like that if you want to go that angle. So then the other thing is, if you go back far enough, you can make time sort of auto-correcting. So, like if you, all right, so everyone uses like, go back in time and kill Hitler. So I'm not going to use Hitler. I'm going to use Napoleon, because Napoleon did some things as well. So, for instance, it's like you consider that time has this inertia. So if you go back in time and sort of kill Napoleon, France is still going to have this sort of early 19th century empire and like a protracted war with England, but by like 1900, everything's going to kind of go back where it was. You killed Napoleon, but other things, the inertia of time set other things in place to stopgap it and then set that stuff right. So that's another thing. If you have the players go back, they can do things and it'll have some effect, but by and large, most things will change back by the time they get back to their time. Now again, well, why would you do that? What does it matter? What effect will that have? Well, it means the players would have to do something pretty big to make a change. Now, it doesn't also have to be the players. This could be the villain's plot. Something huge has to happen in the past for it to change the future just a little bit. That's also one way not to get caught. Oh, you could also make it so that this stuff isn't necessarily the most fun, but it would be interesting for a one-shot maybe, or just to kind of give a different flair and flavor. Make it so that your players can't do like terribly large things to the past. It won't let them. Now, again, this can get cheesy. They can do smaller butterfly effect things like kill a bird or this, that, and the other thing. But any large-scale changes, it's like Final Destination status, where it's a Rube Goldberg machine of time, prevents them from actually executing it. So if they have the dagger over the head of the would-be king, the floorboards would give out underneath them, or all this kind of stuff that would happen to where time wouldn't let them actually do it. And then you could maybe even do something like there are agents of time, similar to the Adjustment Bureau, where they kind of stop time and are fixing things. So like what your players experience is they have a dagger over their head. Then time is stopped, and this Adjustment Bureau, maybe it's the Modrons from Mechanus or from some other material plane, come in, boom, 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 creak up the floorboards, make the knife break, whatever, and go, and then your stuff doesn't work. So again, just spitball here. Let's see here. Let's see a couple more. Oh, here's one. You can time travel back into yourself. Similar to like the movie that did this was The Butterfly Effect, where you can time travel, but you can only time travel back into your own mind. So you can do things and say things, but the you back then would actually black out. This would be really interesting if you want to set this up in your game right now, and again, this is dangerous, but right now have your players start blacking out and losing hours at a time. And you just set it up, and the players start losing hours at a time. And then what you do is you play 2 or 3 sessions like this, and then in the 4th session, you have the time travel start, and then they go back to the parts that were blacked out, and you play through those. And you start having them realize that when they're blacking out, it's them from the future inhabiting their bodies, and they have no memory of it. So I think that would be kind of cool. Scott is here. Rob Coletta says, the dismembered lord is Skynet. Come with me if you want to leave. Come with me if you want to be dismembered. Dylan, Copper Jackals. So one final kind of idea is similar to like the H.G. Wells time machine theory, where you can go back in time, but you have to stay in a place or capsule or something where it's like time has changed, but you need to get back to this capsule in a certain amount of time. So like you get in it, you fall asleep, you wake up, and everything's changed. But if that capsule gets destroyed, you're done. Or, it's a portal, something like that, to where it's a timer where you go and you can run around and do whatever you want. But if you don't hop back through the portal, you're done for. So anyway, those are some thoughts on time travel. Those are some ideas that you can immediately throw into your game, some warnings, some tips. I will check the chat later. What do you think? What time travel stuff did I miss? What laws, principles, theories, tips, what advice do you have for people who want to use time travel in games? Like I said, if you listen to anything, if you listen to one thing that I've said today, it's that be sure you're flexible, be sure that you use it to enhance your narrative. Don't make it the cause or the anchor point of your narrative. And don't use it to erase what the players have worked so hard for without them being a part of it. That would be my main warning, is don't say, well, because someone went back in time and changed it all, everything you did is for nothing. It's like, the only way I would let that fly is if you were like, so go back and fix it. You have to go back in time now and fix it. Don't use it in a way that's going to make it seem like the players don't have an effect on your world, because that's the easiest way to make me disinterested in your game. Let's see here. What's up? Thomas is here. So yeah, I'll go back. I'll read all these comments, but I have to get down the road here. I don't want to be late. But yeah, I am thinking, like I said, I really do want to try to use that. I think it would be cool if there was an organization in Dragon Grin that was using time travel to some degree to go back and try to steal people before they get killed in Lightfall. I think that would be kind of cool. It's important, too, to know that in my mind, like in my headcanon, the Dismembered Lord has a very solid grasp on alternate timelines and alternities and things like that, which is part of the reason why he's so powerful, because in my mind, where most villains are limited by the timeline that they exist in, I like to think that the Dismembered Lord has the ability to see multiple timelines at once and choose through common sense, wisdom, experience, the timeline that seems to result in the best options. I think that this would make him a very deadly foe, and I want it to be one of the reasons why he wins and is in power, because it's almost impossible to beat him, because he can look at multiple timelines and kind of say, like, okay, well, if I do this, this happens. If I do this, this happens. Like, think about the kind of power that would bring if you had a foe that could see many, many possible outcomes and then choose the one where they are the most victorious, or they get the result that they want the most. And to me, I think that that's one of the things that I want to make the Dismembered Lord have, because how do you make him otherworldly? How do you make him so powerful that everyone would cower? And it's like, because you don't know what he's got his eye on, and you don't know what he would change on you, or what thing he could change in your history or your future. It could be something as simple and awful as, taking your children from you through a horrific accident, or, just these. To me, having that ability makes it so that everyone would fear him. He would be a boogeyman. He would be like, no, he'll mess up your life. He'll give you the worst possible outcome. And to me, that makes him so much more deadly and dangerous than if it was just, he'll cut you in half, because I can run and hide from he'll cut you in half, but I can't always run and hide from him choosing the different alternatives. How does it all work? I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that I want to know right now. But I like the idea that it can work and that it can happen. I think that that's going to be something, like I said, that makes him terrifying and deadly, and talk about being able to win battles. Now, I don't know that he would have had this ability during Lightfall. I think it's also important that he had to be tactical. He had to fight and risk everything. I think the Dismembered Lord won Lightfall out of sheer strategy. He is a tactician. He's brilliant. And so he won that out of sheer strategy and kind of risked everything, perhaps to get this ability. I also like the idea that he was not always called the Dismembered Lord, but became dismembered during Lightfall. Perhaps his dismemberment is what was the cost of this enormous power and being able to do all these things. But I like that idea, and I like that your best defense against the Dismembered Lord is to keep his gaze off of you. It's not a matter of will you win. It's a matter of just don't get noticed. Don't be a hero. Stay low. Just do what he wants. Because you don't know. Because if you pick up a sword in Dragon Grin, it could get his attention. And you know what? If you have the Dismembered Lord's attention and he just so wills it, your outcome can be entirely different. And you don't want that. I mean, I even think I would love it if it's kind of a curse in Dragon Grin. When people have bad luck, they blame it on the Dismembered Lord. It's almost like an expletive, dismembered luck, something like that. So, anyway, having a villain like that you'd have to come up with some pretty crazy stuff. Because even the copper jackals, if he can get his hands on, you know, who are they, where are they, and just even get a glimpse of where they are, they have no chance of defeating him. Now, of course, you'd have to limit that power, and it's not that he can use it consistently and constantly all the time, but when he does use that ability, I don't know. And again, you know, how does this happen? Well, he can just look in your future and see all of the things that would need to happen. And if in one alternity you lose your legs in a freak accident, he just makes sure to send 2 troops to make sure that that cart is right where it was, and this, that, and the other thing, or, you know, something like that. I don't want to quantify it too much, but I like the idea of having him all powerful that way. So it's omnipotence granted to a man, and a man with flaws. And to me, that's terrifying in itself. So anyway, I've rambled enough. I love you all. This has been Daily Damage. Subscribe. If you are watching this stream and you haven't hit that little button in the corner, I think it says something like follow these, or, you know, tell me when you're live. That is actually, it's like a little mini thumbs up inside the window. If you're seeing that, hit that button and it'll tell you whenever one of us goes live here on the Facebook page. If you haven't liked our Facebook page, do that and you'll also see these streams. And check out our YouTube channel, because I try to take these and put them onto YouTube the next day. If you had to pop in and out for lunch, or, you know, want to go back and reference something that I was babbling my face off about, you can do that. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for joining me in the chat. I'm going to go get some Hectorium Varbuga root for my my lower scructus and my upper frenulum. So yeah. So wish me luck at the vestibule doctor. Anyway, I love you all. Thanks for letting me be dumb. And until next time, may your dice roll high.